Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Open Mic Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Mark. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This podcast is here for everybody on the open mic comedy circuit, whether you're a comedian, an MC, a promoter, or a tutor. Even comedy fans who enjoy watching the stars of the future in those pub basements around the world. If you're thinking I could do that, then this podcast will guide you on what to expect on this crazy circuit from those right in the middle of it. Today's guest is someone who would rather pose for a photo. If you look at her Instagram, it's clear she loves a good reel. And
Sorry.
And she's been hitting the local clubs hard from doing various sets to MC duties. So please welcome to the stage, it's Joanna Louise. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. That's the most applause I've had all week.
That's what everybody says. We know it's not true.
No, it's definitely not true.
I do have to address, though, the would rather pose for a photo if people don't understand what I'm talking about.
Do you know, I've been roasted so many times on this. Some people think that I look like the embodiment of the crazy sticky out tongue emoji. It's I'll let you explain.
Well, I've seen a few interesting poses that just catch you at that wrong moment, and the recent one I saw was the getting heckled by a flash.
Oh, the photographer.
Yeah, it just wouldn't stop.
It wouldn't, like, and it's not even, because most photographers at these gigs, right, don't have the flash on, but he was like papping the whole way. I was like, you wouldn't want me to have epilepsy here, would you? Start fucking fitting on the stage. But they always try and catch me at the worst time.
Yeah.
So I always look like I'm about to deep dive into an IBS nightmare. So on that one, I was like, right, okay, you're here. I know you're here. Let me pose for this photo and then you can kindly stop.
Yeah.
I make the most interesting facial expressions when I do my set, as you've probably seen.
And I've noticed that you don't tend to put too much material out there as such.
No, I gatekeep a lot, which is probably, I don't know, a few reasons really, because a lot of people put out material that is crowd work.
Yeah.
So obviously to protect their material for tours and things. And then people, as they get, I mean, the classic example, Paul Smith, you know, it's pure crowd work that he puts out there or has put out there because he's obviously emceed that club for so long. But people will go to the shows now expecting there to be crowd work, and they're quite surprised to see that, oh, actually, no, you're just telling jokes. You're not talking to me at all. So I very much want my audience to know that you're coming to a comedy show.
Yeah.
There's going to be jokes. And the worst thing is that I don't want them to come to a show and be like, oh, I've heard that. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's like time progresses and things like that, and I'm not using that stuff anymore. 100% I'll put it out there for the world to see, and then they can kind of know what to expect with me. But I think for now, at the stage I'm at, keeping it, I mean, I'll post audience reactions, like a woman spitting out a drink or a man like cocking his head so far back he'd think he's on the fucking Exorcist. Like, I like moments like that. I just think they're really organic. Also, it comes down to recording equipment as well, because like you want it to be good quality. You don't want it to be, I don't want to undersell myself, do you know? Yeah. So I'm just being really mindful. I'm more trying to put out my personality and be a likable person rather than show my material, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I think there is a thing, isn't there, where people don't want to burn their material too early.
Yeah,
and
well, that's it, yeah.
It depends, you know, if you're on the bottom rung as such of the open mic scene and it's really friends and other people on the scene that are going to see it. If you're starting to make progress, then I can completely see why people start being very protective over it. You don't want to ruin that experience for when you go to a bigger club, because if you go to a bigger club and people have looked up who's on the bill and they see you putting out what you consider your best joke, as soon as you start saying that, that moment in time has been ruined for them.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen comedians that have put out their jokes and are still telling them on the circuit. Yeah. And, you know, it's a dangerous one, because I've sat in the audience and I've heard people going, oh, I heard that one, or they finished the punchline. And it's like, it's not just for them that you want to protect it. It's everyone else who maybe hasn't seen you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think because I've got my solo show coming up as well, I'm very selective of what I put out there. And even what I do at club, like if I do clubs more than once in a month or something, I'll do different material. So it'll be like a whole new set because I'm working on a joke, I'm refining that joke and getting it to where I want it to be. And then I'm doing another one, you know? So I'm constantly circling material to hone it in and perfect it. Well, you can never perfect it, but, you know, getting it to a standard that I'm happy with.
Yeah.
It looks like I have a different set for everything and then I just bin it, but I'm not. I'm sort of putting it to the side and building up a repertoire. I don't know what you call it, but yeah.
It's as good as well as any. So what is your general background then in comedy? When did it start and stuff like that and the journey?
Oh God. Do you know what? It's so funny. I only started comedy and I have to say I'm still really good friends with him to this day. Like we're really good mates. But I went to Middlesex University before I went to drama school, and famously Alan Carr went there, and because they do the comedy module in third year, which I didn't know. I went through clearing. I actually wanted to do biological sciences. Went through clearing last minute because everyone told me I was mental and I needed to do drama, and just ended up at Middlesex through clearing. But anyway, I liked this guy. He was so funny and he wanted to be a comedian, wanted to do the comedy module. So I just took all the modules that he was on. Because I just wanted to be near him, I swear to God. And also with the comedy module, you got a weekend away, a place in Devon called Bovey Tracy, which is like a huge mansion, gorgeous gardens. And it was a place that you go and you just constantly work on your comedy, and you're with comedians and the tutors and other like professional comedians and stuff like that. I just thought it was going to be a piss up. So I was like, yes, sign me up. And to be fair, it was a piss up, but I wrote some of my best material there. It was amazing. So yeah, I got into comedy because I fancied the guy taking the comedy module, and I ended up being quite good. So I still talk to him today, and I saw him there earlier this year. Yeah, we're still the best of mates, and we still, like, when I do see him, we still write together, and we do all our old little techniques and things like that. And honestly, I cry laughing. Like, I'm getting to that age now where I have to cross my legs when I laugh. So it's like, so that's why I got into comedy, because I was horny. So
fair enough. So how long ago was that?
That was in 2012. So 12 years ago.
So what did the course actually entail then? Because I know what a modern comedy course is in terms of like a evening class type thing. But in terms of actually a university kind of thing.
Yeah. So it was so we had our lectures and then we had our practical, obviously. So every week was like open mic, as what I perceive it now. You had to come up with a new joke every week, perform it in front of the class, and you'd get feedback, whether it was, bin it, I like this aspect, could you develop it, you know, and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. In the lectures as such, because we had to write essays and everything, it was watching how comedy has developed over the decades, how, you know, the techniques, the craft of it, you know, and you would watch a comedian do a joke and be like, how did he make that funny? Yeah. You know, and you'd really deconstruct the craft of it. So it kind of ruined comedy for me, really, because now I can't watch stand-up comedy without being really critical and thinking about it, you know, and deconstructing the joke. So it was a blessing and a curse, really. But I thought it was incredible, absolutely incredible. The people on the course were just brilliant, and they really did help develop a set that still to this day I get messages about on social media about my set that I did on my final. I swear to God, because I came up with a set about, it was around the time 50 Shades of Grey came out, right? Mm-hmm. And it was all the rage, and I hate a trend. I hate a fad. So I read the books to basically rip the piss out of it. I did. And I didn't know what I was going to be ripping the piss out of. But it ended up being the fact that the author couldn't find one word for the word vagina. It was always called a there. He touched me there. I felt a tingling there. Yeah. So I came up with about, I think it was 56 words that she could have used. Yeah. All the way from, you know, Lady Garden to badly stuffed kebab. Yeah. So, yeah, people still contact me because I used such out there word for the word vagina. Yeah. I've made quite an impression on that year of university. But and and beyond, because our final exam, as it were, was in the King's Head in London. We had to do a 10-minute comedy set. There was a panel of our lecturers, judges, who are obviously established comedians. I was the best on my night. So it was incredible. And then I went to the Edinburgh Fringe, and that ruined me. It absolutely ruined me. I just wasn't ready for I didn't know what to expect, and I just wasn't ready for what I got, basically. Yeah. Completely embarrassed myself in front of other professional comedians. I was young, ambitious, and an alcoholic. Oh. So, throw that into the mix. So, I just thought I embarrassed myself so much in front of really big Irish comedians. I just walked away, and I was like, no, I can't. I can never. I felt blacklisted. Yeah. So I walked away, and I started focusing on producing, because I'm an actress as well. That's when I went to drama school, and I thought, right, forget the comedy, let's do this, And I always played the comedic parts, the Mistress Overdones and all of that. It was just a crazy time, and I excelled so much in that. I was at the Tony Awards in 2014, and with all these A-listers, and my fondest memory of that time was I was pissed as a fart, right, on champagne. Yeah. It was free bar, free food, caviar, macaroons, like as many frozen yogurt flavors as you would like. Like, honestly, America is like go big or go home. Mm-hmm. And I was drunk on champagne, sitting on Alan Menken's lap, singing The Little Mermaid. Legs in the air, his wife looking at me horrified. Haywood didn't know what to do. The producer I was with at that time, we were working on a show, bringing it from Broadway to London. I won't say what show it was, because I think it's actually still running, or maybe it's on tour. But he was not impressed. Right. And events of that night transpired, and I walked away from that. It was almost like I embarrassed myself to such a point that I didn't want to deal with the consequences. I just walked away. I'm like, right, okay, just run away from it. And so I walked away, and literally 6 weeks after that happened, it was a very traumatic experience, to the point where the police actually said, look, I think you should come back, and, and I was like, no, just leave it. Just walk away, forget it, draw a line, forget it happened, give me amnesia. 6 weeks later, I met my soon-to-be ex-husband. So I was in a really traumatic headspace, and I was like, oh, do you know what we should do? We should get married to the first person I find and gives me a compliment. Yeah, so spent the next 10 years being married in a really toxic, abusive marriage, popping out babies like Smarties. Miserable, absolutely miserable. I got to a point where I didn't know what my favourite colour was, what my favourite food was. I was just Craig's wife. I wasn't even known as my name, I was just, oh, you're Craig's wife. Like, yeah. And then, or it was, oh, you're Gwen's daughter-in-law. Yeah. Like, I had no identity. It was just that kind of dynamic. I got into a pit of depression, and lots of things ensued. I won't go into detail, but gave me a lot of trauma and therefore material. So I was at a crossroads. Am I allowed to talk about like bad shit? Like, I don't know. I mean,
you can.
Okay.
I guess one thing is that it must have been quite a shock for you, in terms of, because you've gone from the point of the center of attention, everybody knowing who you are. Yeah. You're doing quite well other than a few bad experiences. You're building up a personality that is probably very bright and out there, to, like you say, not really having a name.
Yeah. I was stripped of everything. It was really, and do you know what? I have friends that are, my best friend, Mairead, I don't know where I'd be without her. She was with me all through that marriage, and she's still my best friend to this day. Mm. And I had a gig cancel on Monday in Dublin, and I was messaging her and things like that. And she was like, I'm coming up for a cup of tea. And do you know what? That was like winning the lottery to me. I was like, there's nothing better than sitting with your non-comedy friends who love you, seen you at your worst, and are still there by your side. And it's like, I think that's really important for comedians to have. That was one of the best pieces of advice that I was given by Hattie Preston, who regularly MCs the Hot Water Comedy Club. I actually stayed at her house one night because I was stuck. She was like, right, you're coming home with me. I was like, okay. Honestly, the maddest situations I've been in, like, it's just like a movie. But she said it is so important to have friends in your life that you can trust who are not on the comedy scene, just to be you. Turn it off and just be normal. as one for a better word. And I was like, do you know what? That's so important. You know, because constantly when you're working at this, you have to be surrounded by everyone in the industry, everyone in the comedy scene. You're always at gigs, you're always socializing with them people. So to kind of bring yourself back down to your roots and who you are and why you're doing this, it's so important to keep those people around you as well, whether it's friends, family, or whoever. Yeah. It's really important to separate the two and that it doesn't embody you. And that was the best piece of advice I was given, because honestly, it's really helped me in many, many different ways. In a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's journey is certainly different, and it's how you come out the other side of it.
Well, this is it. Yeah. I mean, I've been sectioned. I've been, pulled off bridges. I've been brought back to life after a serious overdose. Literally, one of my best friends, Tuesday, she was sat by my bed, and I'm so glad she was there to witness this, because otherwise no one would bloody believe me. He said, the doctor come in and said, we don't know what to do. And she was like, oh my God, what do you mean? What do you mean? And he was like, well, the lethal limit in your blood system is 50. And she was like, well, what's she sitting at? And he went, 250. So scientifically, you should be dead. We don't know how this is going to pan out. This is out of our hands. So, literally doing a Lazarus and coming back from the dead, it changes your perspective on a few things. It's like, right, okay, this is my lot. I'm pretty convinced if I jumped off a mountain, I'd probably grow wings and fly down. Like, it's just not my time. So I was like, right, what can we do differently now? Let's just look at this a completely different way and make it work. And do you know what? I worked on myself for years, did all the right things. I did it a minute at a time, an hour at a time, a day at a time. I got sober. I got on medication. I got therapy. I really, really invested in myself for once, instead of trying to make other people laugh, happy, contented, all the rest of it, And that was the best, slightly selfish. Maybe some people would look at me and think it was a bit selfish, but do you know what? You've got one life. None of us are getting out alive. Do you know what I mean? Like, this isn't a video game you can win. Like, we're all going the same direction, love. So, do you know what? If I have to be here for a specific amount of time, because believe me, I've tried not to be. I've tried to exit the game. I'm in the race and I'm going to make the most of it and do what I can live with. Yep. And it has been the best, because now that I'm healed and I'm on the right path and that I'm myself again, I'm more myself than I have ever been. That now allows me to bring joy to everyone else. Yeah. Because I couldn't bring joy to a bloody cat, let alone an audience. Do you know what I mean? I'd be doing a baby reindeer sitting on the stage just pouring out about my life, going, oh my God. So you make margaritas out of lemons, I think, spice it up a little bit. Yes, I've gone through these experiences, but how can I make them funny? Yeah. So that's exactly what I've done. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm not work shy. So I'm always writing. I was up, like I was saying to you earlier, I was up until about 6 o'clock this morning, 5:30, because I couldn't switch off. I kept thinking of jokes. I kept thinking of openers. I kept thinking of how to set something up and how to tweak something, and audio visuals. And it was just constant. Like, it's in my blood. I just can't get rid of it. So I have to just go with the flow, hence the protein bar and the can of Monster this morning. But it's mental, this journey. And do you know what? It's not a destination I'm going towards as well, because I think that was my perception of this. Like, I want to get to Live at the Apollo. I want to get to this. I want to get to that. I've got to the stage now where I'm just fucking enjoying the journey. And because of that, I'm letting the good things happen. Yep. It's not like I'm striving for the next big thing. I'm just letting the good things happen, and more of them are coming. And it's incredible. Like, where I've come in the past 5.5 months, comedians on this circuit who have been doing this for 3.5 years haven't done what I've done. Yeah. And it's nothing to do with talent. It's nothing to do with any of that. I think it's attitude, and how bad do you want it? You know, I have made a lot of sacrifices and they're paying off. I'm working honestly every day on this. I was saying last night to a friend, it's become an obsession. Yeah. Healthy or unhealthy, I'm enjoying it. So until I stop enjoying it, I'm going to keep writing, and I'm going to keep, like, today I've got a meeting with the theatre for my solo show, my first ever solo show. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. It's so scary. But you know what? I always think, right, do I want to get to my deathbed and think, oh, I wish I did that. Yeah. I wish I was brave enough. No, I don't want to get to my deathbed and have any regrets. I want to do it for the crack. And do you know what? I want to do it as a good person. I will never be too important, too well-known, too successful to be a dick. I will never. I'm sorry. I just can't. There's been people on the comedy circuit who are well established, right? Who have given me the time of day, the advice, the opportunities. It's been like if you could bottle joy and put it in a present, that's what they've given me because it's like support. And then there's others who have exactly the same success as these people who won't even reply to a message, left it on read.
Yeah.
And just won't give you the time of day. I always think, do you know what? Some people show you how to be and some people show you how not to be.
Yeah.
I know exactly the type of person I want to be. And it's someone who gives back to the next lot of comedians coming through, or the other mothers who want advice on being a parent, or people who are struggling with mental health, or people who are struggling with addiction. You know, you get what you give. I'm only here today because of what other people give me. So you have to give it away to keep it, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're up shit creek without a paddle. That's what I think, anyway. Yeah. I might be talking complete bollocks, but
no, you're talking you're telling your story, so it's nobody else's.
So it is bollocks, yeah.
It's that attitude where you want to, I don't know, help somebody or do something. If there's treat other people how you'd like to be treated.
100%. 100%. And not even that as well. Treat people how you would have wanted to be treated. You know, because everyone has experienced, you know, unkindness and bullying and cliquey situations and things like that. And I always think, how would I have wanted to be treated in that situation? If it wasn't that, how would I have wanted that to go? And then if there's another situation that I can be a positive impact on, 100% I'll do it.
Yeah. So we're talking like your comedy started off in your early 20s as such, and then you've had a 10-year break, and then you've come back now and you've been back in it again for nearly 6 months.
Yeah.
I guess it's such a simple question, but not to relive any trauma, but what's the best and worst moments you've ever had on stage?
On stage? Oh, God. Best
you know, a gig that you've just done and gone, I don't think it can get any better. Or have there been like a gig where you've gone, I'm done?
I know that one. There's a open mic comedy night. I say open mic, you can't sign up on the door, but it's just like anyone can sign up to be on the set. And Northern Irish comedians will know exactly the venue I'm talking about. It's called the Pavilion.
Yeah.
And we call it the Pav. That is where dreams go to die. Yeah. I swear that audience members pay for a ticket just to purposefully not laugh. There'll be, you know, there's so many nights where every single act dies on their hole and they're just performing to silence. It was actually my last drink and I went up and I was so hungover. I couldn't remember what I was saying. I couldn't remember my set. I could hardly stand. I did 1.5 minutes. And I actively said, I'm too hungover for this. I'm going to pass it back to the MC.
Yeah.
And I just walked off. And I walked off. I was like, I'm quitting comedy. That's it. I'm done. Bounce me into the next career. I don't care. I'm done. And a really good friend of mine on the comedy circuit, his name's Pete Giffen. He's got a solo show coming out. I'm just giving him a little plug at the Limelight in Belfast on the 30th of November. He literally gave me a hug, took me to McDonald's, said that this is the ritual we do when we die on our hole. I love you, but this is not the first time you're going to die. And you have to get used to it. It's a numbers game. So I've got to the point now where I do strategic deaths because I have to get them out of the way. Right. So there was a day when I had 3 gigs in one day, and the second gig was in the middle of the afternoon. It was just 3 minutes. I had a really big gig that night with quite a big name over here, and that had to go well. That was actually the night that I got flashed by the photographer. So I was like, right, I'll try something completely left field and something I've never said out loud before. Died on my hole for 3 minutes, went to a gig that night and smashed it. And I was like, unreal. Yeah. Brilliant. But do you know what? In terms of the best gig ever, I have to take it back to my gig, my final at uni at the King's Head, because it was my first experience in a comedy club. It was my first experience of people I didn't know laughing. And it was the validation of people in the audience who had never met me, never seen me, just there for a comedy night, them saying that I was the best on the night. And as someone who never envisaged herself getting into comedy or anything like that, that was like, wow, I can do something.
Yeah.
And as a early 20s, 22-year-old girl, that was a confidence boost that I really needed. Because I think it's important, when you're 22, you are still effectively a child. I still feel like a child today. I'm coming 34. I think it's important to play to those young people's strengths. I think a lot of young people these days are kind of pushed into the mainstream, what is expected of them, of influencing, of this, of that. There's so much that hidden talents that aren't being nurtured because they feel like they have to fit in. And I think that's a horrible downside to the society that we live in these days. And I've loads of teenage girls that live around me, and I always chat to them on my way to the shops or always talk to them and show them that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be the odd one, because I was the odd one, and it's also okay not to do well in an exam. Yeah. It's fine. A number, a piece of paper, a bit of ink in front of you does not define who you are. No. And I think that really needs to be, that we're getting better at that, because when I was younger, that was not the case. It was all about the numbers, the letters at the end of the grades, everything. It was all about what you look like rather than who you are. So I think we are getting better at that, but there's always room for improvement. This is becoming a fucking TED Talk. This is really weird.
There's no real set agenda as such. This just goes in whichever direction it goes. It's
mad. So worst gig, definitely the Pavilion, the PAV, notorious amongst comedians. If you brave the PAV, and do you know what? There was the last time I did the PAV actually recently. Again, it was a horrible. I shouldn't say that. It wasn't a horrible audience, but the audience weren't vibing with the comedians. Let's just say. Yeah. Second half happened. I just went off script. I was like, I'm not sticking to my set. I'm just going to go off script and see what happens. But the MC came up after me and was like, I can't believe you won them back. I can't believe you did that. And I think just breaking that fourth wall, getting in with the crowd and catering the funnies to them really helps the PAV. But again, that's taken months to, I suppose it's like getting on a bike. So, I mean, I do have skills from way back when. And
it's being present in the room, isn't it? If the audience are receptive to you're there in the room rather than reciting a script.
Yes, yeah.
It doesn't 100%. Matter if what you're saying unscripted isn't technically as funny to them. Yeah. It's about the here and now, and that's it. That's what they enjoy.
Well, and also you've got to be likable. If they don't like you, then they're not going to want to laugh at you. This table at the front, they were so rowdy. Talking during the set, not laughing. It was everything else. And I went to the bar in the break, and I got a drink, and they were at the bar ordering the strongest wine I've ever smelt in my fucking life. And I was like, as a sober person, it was like, ooh. So I opened with that. I was like, I said to the audience, I was like, I was up at the bar and these two ordered the strongest fucking drink I've ever smelt in my life. And then they started laughing. And I was like, what are you having? And everything else. Oh, is it nice? And then this guy who was chatting and things like that, I was like, are you with him? And they went, unfortunately. And well, that got a laugh. So I was like, right, hone it. So it was, it's hard when you have hecklers and things like that. You don't want to make it all about them. It's almost like they think that they're the only one in the room, that they're just watching a TikTok in their bedroom. And it's like, no, there's actually other people that want to see the show here. So, it's definitely a skill to know when to address a heckler and when to just ignore them. Yeah. Some of them are like, there was one last night. Oh my God. Thank God we had an experienced MC on. I just went to watch. It was open mic, sign up on the door. Anyone can do it. First timers, A woman who was insanely drunk and kept talking to the comedians during their set. Like it was a conversation. Honestly, the whole room was like, shut the fuck up. Even her friend was like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. But she was just so drunk, she just wasn't aware of her inhibitions. It took I couldn't have dealt with that. And Luke McGibbon, who is like the nicest man on the comedy scene over here, the nicest man. He has helped so many comedians get to where they are. He runs the Pavilion. Honestly, he would give you the shirt off his back to help you get to where you needed to be. He has helped me so much. Honestly, like the support on this scene is incredible. I don't know what it's like on other scenes, but on the Irish scene, it is really supportive and really kind. Small cliques, certain people, as with everywhere, who try and gatekeep, who there's maybe a jealous streak in. Like I had one guy, I was doing a charity event for mental health and he was there He just looked at me and went, "You opened for Paddy Raff, didn't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I did, yeah. We were at the Hot Water Comedy Club and I opened for him." I was like, "It was really good, you know," and things like that. He was like, "How the hell did you get that? And you've only been doing comedy for 5 minutes." I was like, "I don't know, but I'm thankful that I got the opportunity." You know, and it's just knowing how to deal with those kinds of comments, because it's more about them and how they feel than it is about me. You know, I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, I don't think.
How big is because you're in Northern Ireland, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
So how big is the Northern Irish circuit then, in terms of like the open mic part of the circuit?
Well, there's 3 open mics a week. So you've got the Pavilion, you've got Are We Comedy Club, and you've got Manic Comedy. But then obviously, because we have a free-flowing border, a lot of our comics go to Dublin as well. So I'm in Derry tomorrow, and that's, again, it's not sign up on the door, but it's like the Pavilion. Like, if you're a comedian that wants to try out new things or whatever, that's where you go. It's a really nice space. I love Derry so much. I love Derry. It's just a shame it's like 2 hours away. But honestly, the Irish comedy scene over here is huge. I think we need our own Fringe festival, because the amount of comedians that we have, the amount of venues that we have, it's unreal. It really is. Like, I don't know if it's the trauma from the Troubles or what it is, but everyone's a funny fucker. Like, everyone's so funny, intentionally or unintentionally. So yeah, it's ever-growing comedy scene over here. It really is. And it's lovely to see comics opening up open mic nights for the next sort of people coming through. It's bloody beautiful.
I do think there should be, it would be nice to see more fringes around, because I think, I don't know if I'm going to say this right or not. I think Edinburgh needs to be, anybody that's tried to go there in the last probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 years has realised just how expensive that place is.
It's mental.
All you end up doing is allowing those that have an audience and those that have money to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then you end up with like it's almost class war as such. In that if you can't afford to do it, you can't do it. There's no. They talk about giving funding and stuff, but there will never be enough funding. No,
I agree. I think luckily with the Fringe, but even the sign-up fee is like 300 quid, you know? So even if you went to do the free Fringe, you have to stay there, you have to eat there, you have to, you know, so, okay, you've saved like $1,000 on the venue, but you still got all the other costs. I actually went to an event about taking a show to the Fringe, because I do want to go to the Fringe this year. And the way that some of the bigger comedians over here do it is that they'll go over for the free Fringe and they'll invite other comics to come and do a night so they can fly in and fly out. But they stay the whole month, which I think is great, because that's them helping others just experience the Fringe, get to the Fringe, you know. And without people like that, and it just would be impossible. It really would be. I don't know if you've heard of the Galway Comedy Festival.
No.
It is unreal. Like the best of Irish comedy is there.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to see. It's usually around November time or October time. I'm definitely going next year. Like, there's no two ways about it. Because I just think the Edinburgh Fringe, I've been there and done it, you know. I'm not too sure. It's hard as well, because you want to be put forward for all the awards and you want to get seen by the industry and things like that. So it's a double-edged sword. It really is. But you've also got your 2025 Edinburgh Fringe has also got to compete with Oasis. Well, yeah, this is it. That's going to be interesting. Oh, don't even. I tried to get tickets and it was just not a mission. And do you know what? Even if I did get it through the queue, I'm not paying 250 quid to watch two blokes have it out on stage. Like, no. I'm sorry, I can watch that up at the fucking family reunions. So I'll catch them on the telly. No doubt they'll do a Netflix special or something. So I honestly think they're doing that because of Taylor Swift. I think they've looked at her and gone, well, fucking hell, we can do that. Come on. Yeah. For £1 billion? Yeah, come on. Let's have it.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. Duncan Hart here from episode 37. If you're enjoying this podcast, give it a like, a 5-star rating, and a follow on whatever app you're using right now. Mark will be forever grateful. Now, back to this cracking episode.
How many open mics can you do a week then in your area? Within a reasonable commutable distance?
3.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not like London. And I was talking to Jimmy Carr about this actually, and he said, you need to move back to London. And I was like, oh, it's just so expensive and, and everything else. And he was just like, so I kind of want to prove the system wrong, that you can succeed not living in London.
Yeah.
I think social media helps a lot with that as well now, because I don't know if you know him, but John Devlin, who's like TikTok extraordinaire, he's so many followers, a coffee with him when I first got back into it, and I was like, look, I need help with social media. I don't know what to do. Yeah. Really helped me. Again, another example of a guy who's successful, who's not competing with anyone, who just wants to help. And I've had 42,000 views on my profile this month. And I was with him last night. I was like, look, showed him. And he was like, oh, brilliant. Do you want to see mine? And I went, oh, for fuck's sake. And he was sitting at like 800,000. I was like, oh, fuck off, John. So it's just, I'm trying to build an online presence. It seems to be that's how comedians these days are being picked up and seen, because I can be on a For You page at 4 a.m. over in Australia. I've been on For You pages in Germany, Australia, the USA, China, like mad countries when you look at the statistics on the page. And it's like, I've got the world literally at my fingertips. And I need to learn how to use that, because I'm not technologically savvy. I rely heavily on people who are. So it's definitely changed the game. So I don't think that doing as many open mics these days is as important as it was maybe 10, 20 years ago, as long as you keep up the online presence.
Yeah, I think if you're confident enough and you've got your voice already, the open mics are, you don't feel like you have to be doing 3, 4, 5 a week.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well. I was always, another bit of really good advice I was given in the beginning was my friend Pete again. He said, open mics are not gigs. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, they are an exercise class. They are to try new material. That's the place, that's your factory where you go to make the jokes.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay. And then I went to go and see him at the Empire, which is one of the biggest comedy venues over here. It's huge. Unreal that he's played the Empire, and things like that. I saw him play the Empire, and I'd only ever seen him on the open mic scene at that point. And then I saw him at the Empire and I went, I get it. Because he crafted his set in such a way that was so different and more attuned to how I learnt comedy than how he was on the open mic scene, where he would just try out one bit, one set, like one joke and things like that. The open mic scene, I think, is primarily for jokes, whereas comedy clubs and bigger venues are for your set and your stage presence and persona and how you'd like to be judged. I wouldn't want to be judged on what my open mic sets are, because like he said, that's my factory. I want to be judged on the final packaging. So I, as soon as it's all about perspective. I had to keep changing my perspective, because in the beginning, I wanted to die on stage, because the more I died on stage, the better I was getting. Whereas some people would be like, oh, I'm no good at comedy. Oh, no, I'm walking away. I'm no good, Whereas changing the perception of it, I think being an actor really helped that as well, because for every 10 auditions, I would get one job. So every time I would go to an audition, I would try my best. But if I failed, I'd be like, I'm one step closer, And that's how I got so many acting jobs as well, because I just played the numbers.
Yeah.
And I just didn't give up. And I think that's what is the pattern for comedians as well. A lot of the ones at the top of their game have been doing it since their early 20s or late 20s or whatever. Yeah. And maybe they're in their 40s and 50s. And it's just they never gave up, because it's so easy to just walk away from it. And if you haven't, you're winning.
Yeah. Here's one for you then. Joke writing.
Yes.
What is your thing? How do you do it?
Oh, God. I write lists. It's funny because I do a writing workshop every Wednesday as well, which is really good. It's for people on the open mic scene who want to develop a joke, get feedback on a joke, and we do writing exercises as well. Mm-hmm. And obviously doing it as a course academically, we were given a lot of techniques. So the one that really helped me was writing lists. So it could be anything. So do you remember that show, Have I Got News for You? And they would say something and then people would just come on with jokes to do with that thing. Like, worst thing you can do at a funeral. And they would come on.
Oh, you like, mean Whose Line Is It Anyway?
No. It was the English version.
Mock the Week.
Mock the Week. Was it Mock the Week?
Mock the Week with Dara O'Brien did it. where they have a topic and the comedians would come on and do a line about it.
That's the one. So I would work, my brain is very much like that. So it's like worst things to say at a funeral.
Yeah.
Or I'll just write things down. Or, you know, sometimes I just write random shit and try and find the funny, or like look at different places. Like I'll name different places like a doctor's office, a post office queue, you know, things like that. What can be funny about that? And then linking back to, have I had any experiences of that? Because obviously I need to link it back to a story which identifies with me, because I can't make shit up because the audience can see right through you. So yeah, it has to be about you. I had a really funny thing at the, like I was going through a bit of a phase. I still kind of am. I'm trying to work through it, but trying to make trauma funny. So how can I make the really sad, shitty parts of my life funny?
That was going to be one of my next question.
Yeah.
You anticipated that quite well.
So yeah, how can I make things like that funny? And it's like, I actually texted a joke to my friend Mairead, who I mentioned earlier, and she actually replied saying, only you can make that funny. Only you. She was like, any other person could not make that topic funny. I don't know. It's mad. There'll be days where I go where I don't really want to write, but I have to force myself. And there'll be nights like last night where I just can't sleep for all the material in my head that I just have to get out. It's like, you know, when you're going to sleep and you think, oh, I should have said that, you know, in an argument or something, or like in a... So I do that for comedy.
Because the thing that I've always found strange or difficult to understand about making the funny out of trauma is finding that balance where you don't want sympathy from the audience.
Yes.
When you're
100%.
talking about something that's quite hard and quite deep, and they understand that, and then they feel sorry for you. Yeah. Then you crack a joke and it doesn't...
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, they don't come with you on that joke because it's almost being offended on behalf of somebody else and trying to avoid that. And I've never worked out how to do it. There's things I've always wanted to explore, but I never feel like I could do it justice at the moment where I am. And if I can't do it justice, I don't want to do it because then it feels like it's half-assed. It will inevitably fail, but it might not fail because the material's rubbish. It might fail because the material's not ready. Do you know what I mean? And if it fails and I go and I hit it hard, then I might just dump that. I've got a set that I did it once. It completely bombed, but I know there's something in it, but I've never had the guts to revisit it again.
Oh, what I would say is desensitize yourself to it. So when I first started doing that, I never wanted to record myself, watch myself back or anything like that. I couldn't think of anything worse. I had to completely desensitize myself and film my sets and watch myself back and work on it. And do you know what? It's the best discipline that I have done because I can work out where the timing was wrong, where I'm talking too fast, where I need to slow it down, where something didn't work. And there has been things that I've had to like change up. Like there's a joke that I do about my mum, who is an alcoholic and has paranoid schizophrenia. I said, you know, she's Irish. So I said, you know, when she first came over to London, they had on the doors, you know, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. And when I didn't understand, it used to aggravate me and it used to, you know, anger me that my mum was discriminated against so much. But then I saw my mum on the piss and I kind of thought, yeah, a border collie would be less likely to piss on the floor actually. And then bite someone. It's hard. And then what about my dad, who quite aggressive in his youth? I always started off like, I used to call him mortgage because one eye was fixed and one eye was variable because he had a lazy eye. Right. And I haven't set that up or done it properly at all. But I said, I'm actually 14. He just knocked me into my 30s, or at least it fucking felt that way. So I had to be like, well, you kind of deserve that, you know, from the audience because, you know, and I'll sort of go, who else was hit, you know, when they were a kid? And everyone would go, hey, I'll be like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with us, you know? Yeah. So if the trauma's identifiable and if you can make it like, not like group therapy, but like a trauma bonding experience with the audience, because people who love comedy are traumatized people. They're people who have mental health who need to laugh, you know? Normal people don't go to comedy shows. I've learned this. They just don't. I mean, who willingly wants to go to a comedy show, sit in the front row and get abuse thrown at them in front of thousands of people? Like, you're not normal, babe. So, you know, I think understanding that your audience probably has trauma too, and understanding that, do you know what, your audience will identify with it, and coming up with the funnies. Like, I remember going to a gig once and really, really good guy is David Doherty Jebb. and he was emceeing this night. He just looked at me and he said, he can smell the sertraline off of me. And it was just so funny because, do you know what? I am on sertraline. And it was funny because, do you know, the people who sit in the front row of a comedy club, they're not with it. Yeah. Like, they want to be abused. I know a lot of people, I mean, I was looking at Tara Tomlinson last night, who's a great example of it. You know, she was saying about her mental illness and she was kind of making it so ridiculous, paralleling it to millennial women and their attitude towards dating, also side by side with, like, she was diagnosed with bipolar. A good example, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she was a bit angry about it because they just gave her the medication. They didn't really tell her. And then she was told by her doctor, you know, all these famous people that have bipolar and that they can live a successful life. So they said, Selena Gomez has bipolar. She was like, oh, I don't mind then because she's quite pretty. Do you know, she made it into like an airhead, so it's, I think you need to fail. You need to get the deadpans, the silences and things like that to develop it. And you also need feedback. If you've got a good core of comedians that you can trust, that have your best interests at heart, that's why I go to the writer's room. I think being surrounded by people who are as obsessed with comedy as you are is invaluable.
It's therapy.
It really is. It is. And as well, and like they all, like I had a comedian come up to me last night and said, I used the line that you gave me in the writer's room last week. And I was like, amazing, brilliant. How did it go? Do you know? So we're always swapping material and giving material and things like that and say, oh, should you do this or do that? Because people think it's such a solo venture that it's so, you write by yourself and you go on stage by yourself. And I used to think that. And I used to say that. It's like I write by myself, I go on stage by myself, I come off stage by myself. But it's not. It's such a community thing. Like I always run material by people. And mostly because some of it could be offensive. So I'm like, is this offensive? Is this bad? And sometimes they'll say, yeah, never say that in public again. Or they'll say, no, it's okay, but just change this. I described a Christmas that I had a couple of writers' rooms ago, and it was very traumatic. And everyone was kind of like at the table. And Luke McGibbon, who's the, like I said, nicest man in comedy, he just looked at me and was like, are you healed from that yet? I was like, I think so, yeah. And he was like, okay. He said, the bits that were most traumatic, you rushed through. He was like, I feel like you need to slow it down and own it and things like that, because it almost like I was saying it just to get through it, you know, because I didn't want to linger on it because it hurt. And I was like, well, that's not what. And he was like, okay, but that's how it was coming across. I was like, okay, got you. Right. I think owning it. I always used to say, you know, beat the bullies at their game. If they're laughing at me because of my ears, I'll always make fun of my ears. Yeah, oh, big ears. So take the funny out of it for them. Like, so if there's a traumatic thing that's happened to me, take the trauma out of it. Yeah, this happened. Isn't that great? And they'll be like, oh, it's okay to laugh now.
We've started in my local area, we've started workshops and stuff like that. The amount of material that comes out from just sitting in the room and talking things through, I feel like I've become a better comic because of those. And it has happened so many times where you do something that you've done in the workshop and you do it on stage and somebody else was there and they go, I remember when you workshop that idea, when we thrashed it out and helped you and got you to that. And then you've taken it on to another level. And it's also nice when you're with people and they see you do the set. They know your set now.
Yeah.
And they'll go, that was a new bit. That was a new bit. I like that new bit. And you're like, yeah. I've only had the confidence to get those new bits because I've made the other bits really quite good. And then I feel I can chuck a throwaway line in there just to see what happens. And you start learning then that the scripted nature of comedy doesn't have to be 100% scripted because it works so much better without it.
100%. The more that you can make an audience feel like you're just talking to them without it being scripted is just, you need to make them feel like they're having an organic experience, I think. It takes a really skilled comedian to script ad-libs, you know, to make it feel like, oh, I just said that, but really you were going to say that anyway. So, no, I totally agree. And do you know what? It's all about output. Just keep output. It doesn't matter if it's shit. It doesn't matter if it's bollocks. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, random nonsense. Just keep putting output out there. You know, it's about input and output. Input is your experiences, what you see, what you live, everything else. And then how do you create that into an output? You just write anything, you know. What
would you say then is your favorite joke or your favorite joke, and how did it come about and how's it changed over time? if it's changed at all?
Ooh, I do have a favourite joke, and it's the one that you don't want to be sipping your drink when you hear it. Because more often than not, I had a booker come up to me and he said, I want you back for the next one. And if you don't tell this joke, I'm never booking you again. He said, I watched a full grown man spit his entire pint all over his table. And I was like, okay. So,
you don't want to reveal it, do you?
No.
Has it, right,
basically,
we won't reveal it, but is it as it was when it first was created, or has it changed, and how has it changed?
No, it is exactly the same. It is exactly the same as what it has always been. The setup has changed a little bit just because I've added material before and after, but it's basically talking about the difference between my lady parts in my 20s and my lady parts in my 30s.
Right.
And a catchphrase has come out of it, and I'm actually getting merchandise for it as well. So, yeah, it's definitely, yeah. I don't know why I'm such a female comic. Like, all of my funny bits are about vaginas. Like, I don't understand how this happened. Like, I never set out to become a vagina monologue comic, but everyone just found it really hilarious. And I think because they identified with it a lot as well. It's a play on words, we'll say, as well. And I have to say as well that the joke that follows it, you'll never look at a Happy Meal box ever again.
Okay.
The same way. It's just, yeah, it's golden. It's one of my favourite jokes to tell because it's always a guaranteed belly laugh.
Yeah.
And that's like, to me, is like crack. So
fair enough.
I'm going to have to gatekeep that one. But if you want to hear that joke, then come to my solo show in March or come to any one of my gigs. I will hopefully be touring in 2026.
The solo show then, how's it come about? 'Cause I've always been interested, like how does somebody get a solo show? As in the venue, the admin, all of that. What buy-ins you need and all of, it's alien to a lot of people.
Okay, so what I'll say is venue is important, capacity is important. I have all this experience because I was in producing, and obviously I was an actress and things like that. I was self-producing as well as doing loads of films and TV and stuff. But so to have that experience, all I would say genuinely is if you have a venue that you like, if there's a stage that you think, I want to do that, email the theatre, email the comedy club, email them and say, I would like to hire, because they're a money-making business. They want to make money. So they'd be more than happy to hire you out. Some venues will say, okay, you pay for the venue and then you keep all the ticket costs. Some venues will say, we'll do a 60-40 split. Some venues will say, pay for the staff fees and then everything else will split. It's a venue by venue basis. And all I would say is, because venues are usually booked up, book the venue first. And then when that's signed, sealed and delivered, that'll give you the fear, right? So you have to, so you have a date. And then once you have a date and you have a time scale of how long you can have the venue for, whether it's a night, whether it's an hour, whatever. And this same goes for people that have done the Fringe, it's a similar sort of thing. It really is. When you email the venue, you get the date of the show. I would say once the fear of that contract is there, then you get to work. It's that kind of rocket fuel boost. You can either do it as a comedian, you can either do it as a work in progress. So the pressure's kind of off you and it's jokes that you've done, but jokes that you want to develop and things like that. So it doesn't have to be as smooth, free flowing. Also get people to support you on the night to do 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. Everyone does that. Everyone has support acts. So make it a night that you will enjoy. Make it a night of comedy that you'd want to go and watch your favourite comedians, to do support with you. I would say choose a theme because that's going to really help you around your advertising as well. Mine for this one is, I haven't come up with a title yet. I'm still working on it. But it's about being a foreigner born in London. So born in London to two foreigner parents, moving to Ireland, people thinking that I'm English, but I'm not English because I was brought up by two Catholic parents, Irish Catholic, Greek Catholic. Someone actually said to me, I didn't think English people could be Catholic. I was like, okay. It's just about my experience of growing up in a very, very fiery household, the differences and how that has set me up for the challenges of adulthood and maybe how it hasn't helped in some aspects. So it's just going to be about a get to know me. I think the best way to do the first show is just a get to know me, because those are the clips that you want to put out as well. So of the material, because then you've done the show, you're going to start writing new stuff, you know, and I just want it to be like, this is who I am. This is my background. I'm an existential crisis walking. Please laugh. So yeah. I just want to make it into a fun night. And what I'm doing is the theatre that I'm doing it in is that we can sell online tickets. So we're streaming it live.
Okay.
So you'll get a link and you'll be able to watch it live from home, which means wider audience. If you've got babies, children, or working or whatever, watch it from home.
Yep.
It also means that I'll be saying to people, like, if you are watching from home, put up a photo on Instagram or whatever, hashtag, tag me, you know, all the rest of it, and get the traction of that as well. I don't know if I should say this. Fuck it. Everyone will always say, like, don't get above your station. Like, oh, you're not there yet. You're not there yet. You know, I'm like I said, 5.5 months in, I'm already playing a solo show. There's people who are 3 years in and are only just doing their first show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I look at the professional comedians, I'm like, I want to do that. I will do my solo show. I want to sell merchandise and I want to do a tour. And people will look at me like I'm crazy. This isn't a question. This is, I am doing this. When am I going to do it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, that old meme of like, dress for the job that you want. You know, I want to do this, so I'm going to do it. Whether I fail, whether I succeed, whether everyone's indifferent, whether I get cancelled, it's something I want to do, and I'm doing it for me. Yeah. And it's a journey that I want to be on. You know, I want to be on this train. So you can't kick me off because I just bought the ticket. So I think being headstrong and being like, I'm going to do this, and having that mentality of this is happening. So stop questioning it. Stop trying to run away and being fearful and doubting myself, because it's going to happen whether I doubt myself or not. So I just got to do it.
Oh, fair enough.
If that makes any sense.
No, it does. I think it's if you don't try it, you'll never know if it was ever going to work.
Exactly. Imagine if all these big comedians never tried it.
Well, that's the thing, is how many people didn't. You know, in the modern day, there's so many comedian careers would probably have started back by doing a course. And if they'd gone, no, I'm not stumping up the couple £100 for that, I'm not going to do that, they'd still be doing their normal day job, and they would never have gone to that point. You have to make the best of what you can and try whatever you can within the means that you can.
Exactly. I think it's hilarious. Not hilarious. I mean, obviously it's society, but people are more interested in investing in inanimate objects that you can't take with you rather than themselves, which can leave a legacy. So people would rather invest in a car or a house or a holiday or things like that, but they're more reluctant to invest in themselves. And I think that's sad. Yes. Because you yourself is what's going to make an impact on the world, on the next generation, on other people. Someone, like, I could make a joke about being an alcoholic, and that could identify with someone. And then someone could reach out to me. And a really good example of that is Dan O'Reilly, Dapper Laughs, really open about his journey and has helped so many people. And what would happen if he was just too embarrassed to talk about it? He wouldn't help anyone. I think it gets to a point where it has to be more than just about you. And it's like, actually, it's not about me anymore. It's about everyone else. It's about being the person that I wish I had. And if I can do that, if I could just be open and honest and share my experiences, if that can help someone or just one person, then aren't you doing your job as a human being? Yeah. You know, because life is shit. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Life is fucking awful. Like, isn't it? I mean, who signed us up for this shit? Like, we've got to make the most of it, you know? I mean, even on the Titanic, they were playing a little fiddly tune, you know, as they were going down. So you've just got to find the positives, like. Yeah.
Somebody once said to me, actually, going back to the, you know, investing in inanimate objects is don't be the richest person in the graveyard.
100%. And what I say as well about, because there's all this pressure on young girls to be skinny, pretty, big lips, big fucking everything. Like, forget 10 rounds in the ring with Mike Tyson. It looks like they've done 10 rounds with a fucking Dyson. Like honestly. And I'm like, babe, the only difference between me and you is my coffin's going to be slightly wider. Like, that's literally the only difference. And I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like, I might need an extra pallbearer, but like, I've got the friends, so, you know, I'm not lacking. Like, yeah, just fucking enjoy life.
Back to the solo show. This leads nicely. I haven't got a screech button to put a noise effect on this. The solo show, this kind of leads into a common question I ask is that walk-on music.
Yes.
If you was ever to become super famous, Netflix, Live at the Apollo, what walk-on music would you pick? But as you're doing a solo show and you've got it set up in 5 months' time, 4 months' time, what do you have an idea of that?
Do you know what? I don't. And I was thinking about this, and it's mad because that dream for me has already been lived out. Because when I opened for Paddy Raff, it was a big venue, and the guy said to me, "What's your walk-on music?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" I get what? Yeah. So because obviously I'm from London, I'm very London. Like I'm as London as they come. I got the Clash "London's Calling" on, and walking out to that music was just like, mate, if I could bottle that, I'd never need a man again. I don't think people remember walk-on music. I've seen hundreds of gigs and they never remember that. The walk-on music's more personal to you, I think.
Yeah.
Because people never remember it.
I always think about this topic a lot because on the open mic circuit in London especially, there are very, very few nights that do it.
Yeah.
So I've always looked at it is that it's a way of introducing yourself to the audience via music that most people are probably going to know.
Yeah.
But it's also a way of taking away that horrible 2 seconds of silence between your name being announced, people clapping, and you reaching the microphone and saying your first words. Because at that moment you go to the microphone, inevitably the clapping will stop. And then you have that awkward 2 seconds of fumbling around, trying to get something ready. And in your head, I felt like the room has then reset itself. Whereas with a bit of music and some noise, I've got to a point now sometimes where if I'm walking onto a stage and the clapping's dying down and there is no music, I'll start waving my hands in the air to encourage people to keep clapping and to keep putting energy into the room. Because as soon as you stop, you take the energy out. You go, "Hi, my name's Mark." And it's just like, there. That little bit of a punch or a kick into somebody. You know, whenever you see Paul Smith walk on stage and it's AC/DC, it's like your head now goes, that's the time he's coming on. We're getting ready.
Yeah. For me, I mean, that was the only time I've ever had walk-on music. And before that, I think it relies a lot on me to keep the energy up. So I literally run on, I'd fucking fist pump. I'm like, I grab the mic like it's fucking going to run away from me. As you can tell, I'm a very energetic person anyway. And I just go, what the fuck is happening? Like, and just break the ice, smash it to pieces. Yeah. Sometimes if the room's a bit dead, I'll go, "You all right?"
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "Yeah." And I'll be like, "Fucking hell."
Yeah.
Not really then. I'll be like, "You all right?" And then they go, "Ah!" Like fucking, yeah. I think that's probably a transferable skill from the time that I was a party entertainer. I used to dress up as Snow White and fucking Cinderella and all that shit and go to parties and entertain like 30 kids. Fun times. But I got to meet Prince Harry on one of these events. So
blimey.
Yeah. I was dressed as it's funniest story. I was with my friend Rachel, who was working for the same company. She was Cinderella, I was Snow White. We were with Pixie Lott and Rod Stewart, fucking A-list galore, right? It was a charity event for the Well Child Awards. And apparently Prince Harry was coming. Fucking never showed up. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I was like, look, let's go get on the piss, right? So everyone was in there for award ceremony. She goes in the disabled toilets and starts changing. And who do I see coming past me as everyone was already seated? It was Prince Harry walking with his entourage. And I went, dressed as Snow White. I went, oh, my prince has come. And then I went, Hazza, any chance of a photo? And then his entourage, like stick on legs, said no. And I was like, oh, God loves a trier. And he just turned round, he winked at me and he laughed. And I was like, you wanted it, mate. Yeah. I can tell you wanted a bit of this apple. I have to preface it, that's pre-Meghan. It was like the year before they got together. And then Rachel came out and she was like, what was all that shouting? I was like, Prince Harry just walked past. She was like, oh, for fuck's sake. I was in the toilet. I was like, oh, snooze loose, babe. So yeah, no, I've had some great times and just the energy. And I'm like, everyone's got an asshole, everyone shits in a toilet, everyone's going to get buried in a hole, and everyone came out of a hole. Like, I treat everyone from princes to fucking janitors, and for people who serve my coffee, the people that serve me my coffee, babe, they are the most important person to me on my day. Like, they are, like, without them, I'm dead. Like, there is no me without them. So I think treat everyone exactly the same. Don't lick ass. Treat everyone like a human. And do you know what? Everyone wants to be treated like a human deep down. No one wants to be treated like... Because then I think, like, it feels like you just want something from them. And I'm like, no, I just want to be, like, one person being kind to another. Do you know what I mean? It was so funny. Like, I was chatting to... Another example. Like, I was chatting and having a laugh in a green room at one of my gigs. It was packed with comedians. Absolutely packed. And there was a girl, really pretty girl, sitting with merch on her head and sitting there so quiet, just quietly smiling and laughing, just enjoying it. Got her on Instagram, Paul Smith's missus, Laurie.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I messaged her. I was like, I'm really sorry I didn't speak to you. I was like, it just seemed, and I'm really sorry if I was really loud. And she was like, oh, don't worry, I'm used to it. And because I was sitting with Paul Smith's brother as well. And I was like, fucking hell, like, I thought, is this a family outing or what's going on here? And from making those connections, they're doing their house up at the moment in Paignton. And my dad has a business in Paignton. My dad's like a fucking huge entrepreneurial wood floor enterprise carpet person. Lives in Dubai, living his best life. And he has a showroom in Paignton. I said to my dad, I was like, can we gift them some flooring? And then they can advertise on their page and everything else. And it was like, how many followers have who's Paul Smith? What? It's no clue.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, yeah, I suppose. All right then. I'm like, oh, fucking hell. Right. Okay. So yeah, gifted them some wood floors and things like that for their house. And I was like, look, so I'll be good mates with her now. And she asked me to do her comedy club in February. Okay. So it's Chuckle Fuckers, I think, over there. My dad always goes on at me about private education, and I'm fucking telling jokes for a living. I'm like, well, I'm still fucking selling your flooring, and I love, like, private education. I was like, I'm doing your job and my job and fucking everyone else's job. I was like, money well spent, babe. So yeah, transferable skills, I think. I don't know, what was the question?
I can't remember.
Oh my God.
We go on from walk-on music to hot water to comedy green rooms to selling flooring.
Do you know what? Enjoy the journey, babe, because this is what my head's like constantly. It's like, and that's another thing. I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 27, you know, and they didn't think girls could get it, you know, back when I was small. I was always just different, you know, and I would always just say things and do things just weird. And I ended up masking just to fit in. I masked a lot when I was married, a lot. And that didn't help with my mental health because along with ADHD, people think that it's just the hyperness and, you know, it's all fun and things like that. There's a really dark side to it. Like, there's night terrors. There's, you know, you get complete inertia where you just can't move. You're looking at dishes and you're like, I physically can't. Like, it's not even I don't want to. It's I can't. You know, there's a lot of things I would love to do. I would love to be able to be that person to get up and clean on a Sunday morning. But there's some days I just can't. Have to be mindful of not doing what I can't cope with. Yeah. And same with the comedy scene. I can't do things that I'm not comfortable doing because it will affect me in a negative way. Yeah. So when people say, oh, I've got ADHD, I'm a bit hyper, I'm like, babe, no. Like, there are so many good aspects, don't get me wrong, to having this out of the box thinking, creative mind and things like that. But then there's a side of not sleeping, and when you do sleep, you have night terrors, like really bad night terrors, and then, you know, like I said, the inertia, the depression, having to take time off, you know, for your mental health because it's plummeted because of the hormone levels, and there's just so much, you know, around to it. Yeah. I think there's a real lack of education around it, to be honest, and I think it's thrown around a lot these days that everyone has it, and it's like it's difficult. It's a difficult one because for me to actually say, yes, I do have this, like, you need to bear with me, they don't understand because they think it's just the hyper. Yeah. Because it's just the hyperactivity that they hear and see. But yeah, there's so many different levels to it. That's why my head goes into, oh, sorry, my cat just literally jumped 5 foot in the fucking air. See what I mean? ADHD. I'm literally the worst person. But do you know what? It helps in my comedy because it means I can go on tangents and things like that. But then I have to sort of ground myself and be like, where was I again?
Yeah.
You know, so a 20-minute set could turn into a 45-minute set just through my own personality.
Yeah.
I'll just take you on the scenic route of the fucking question and answer.
Okay. Here's one for you then. You've listened to a few of these, so hopefully you know what's coming next. The Comedian's Challenge.
Yeah.
For those people that don't know, it's the first time listening, I like to set all the comedians a joke to tell from this book called The Little Book of Shit Jokes by an author called Sid Finch. The comedians get to pick the joke they tell on stage, film it and everything, but they don't pick it by words. They pick it randomly by page number. So what they get is completely random. I'd like them to film it, post it on Instagram, tag us in it, we'll share it, have a bit of fun and see what effort they put in. They can build it into a set, they can tell it standalone, or they could just ignore this and never do it. So are you up for this?
I'm doing it. Oh, yeah, I'm totally up for this. I'm going to be such a child.
So I need a number between 5 and 95.
69!
Been done already. That was the very first one ever picked.
Right, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm turning 34 this year, so we'll go for 34.
4. I got 2 jokes on this page. You can have joke 1 or joke 2.
Okay.
Which one do you want?
I want both. I'm joking. Joke 1.
Joke 1. Okay, the joke I want you to tell on live on stage, bear in mind the title of the book, is why does Tiger Woods always bring extra socks to golf tournaments? In case he gets a hole in one.
Oh, okay. I can work with that.
It doesn't have to be Tiger Woods. It could be just as long as the premise stays the same.
Okay.
See, your brain's already going.
Yeah, 100 mile an hour. Like, okay, I've got it.
Good. So you can post this one on Instagram for us, unless it's going to become part of the...
No, do you know what? I'll do it tomorrow when I'm in Derry. And I'll post it on Instagram and tag you.
So where can people find you then on the socials?
So they can find me at Joanna Louise Comedy on Instagram, Joanna Louise Comedy on TikTok. I'm shit at posting on TikTok. You're more likely to get me on Instagram. And Joanna Louise on Facebook. But again, Facebook is posting is linked to Instagram. So the best place for me is Instagram.
Okay. You can find us on Instagram at Open Mic Comedy Pod. We've got a website, openmiccomedypod.com. I'll always ask this, whichever platform you're listening to this on, please give it a like, follow, subscribe, etc. Give it a good high 5-star rating. Gets this up the charts and gets all these people heard. But lastly, thank you very much for your time today, Joanna.
Thank you so much. I've had a lot of fun. It's gone different directions and it's been quite the experience for you.
It's a good one, that's for sure. It's definitely a good one.
Not easily forgotten. How you take that is up to you. But no, I've been buzzing for this. I really have, and it's been nice to be open and to be real. And yeah, hopefully see you all on the stage soon.
Thank you very much. And for the rest of you, I will speak to you all very, very soon.